Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into how we actually measure the wealth and health of a multi-trillion-dollar economy. I know, it sounds like a massive concept, right? But I promise, as we unpack the whole shebang, you're going to see the global economy not as some confusing jumble of numbers, but as a beautifully logical, balanced machine.
So, how does a multi-trillion-dollar economy actually breathe? To really get macroeconomics, I need you to just stop thinking about boring math problems for a second. Instead, picture the economy as this dynamic, interconnected system of pipes, valves, and engines. How does the energy flow from one part to another without, completely breaking the system? Well, that is exactly what we're going to map out today.
Okay, here is our blueprint for today. 1. Defining national income. 2. The double counting trop. 3. The basic economic loop. 4. Expanding the circular flow. And 5. The open economy balance. Let's kick things off with Section 1. Defining national income. Before we can track the flow of money, we really have to know exactly what we're trying to measure. So here's our core definition. National income is the money value of all final goods and services produced by the normal residents of a country in a year. Now, there are some very specific boundaries here. The absolutely crucial word is final, meaning we only count goods that satisfy consumer wants directly. We also measure this over a strict one-year period and base it on a country's normal residents. Basically, that means people whose main economic interest lies in that country, whether they're operating inside its borders or temporarily working abroad. Moving right along to Section 2. The double counting trap. This brings us to a massive hurdle for economists. If we aren't incredibly careful with our accounting rules, we can trigger a massive glitch in our calculation. To dodge this, we absolutely must distinguish between intermediate and final goods. On one hand, you have intermediate goods. These are non-factor inputs used for further production. Think of stuff like flour, seeds, or bricks. They're basically just stepping stones. On the other hand, you have final goods, your bread, cars, televisions. These are the items sold to the actual end users for consumption or investment. They aren't processed any further.
And this perfectly illustrates what we call the math trap. Imagine you're trying to calculate the value of all the bread produced in a country. If you add up the value of the raw wheat seeds, and then you add the value of the processed flour, and then add the final loaf of bread, no way. You are incorrectly inflating the national income. You're literally counting the exact same economic value multiple times as it moves down the assembly line. The fix? We entirely omit those intermediate goods from our accounting and only add the value of the final bread.
We also have to exclude something known as unilateral transfers. These are one-way payments where absolutely zero productive services are rendered in return during the current period. Think about your grandpa's old age pension, an unemployment check, a student scholarship, or just a free gift. While these are obviously incredibly important for society, the recipients aren't making any contribution to current production in exchange for this money. So, to keep our national income accurate, we just leave them off the ledger.
All right, Section 3, the basic economic loop. With our counting rules firmly in place, it's time to build the foundation of our economic machine. To really understand this engine, you need to see that it runs on two separate, perfectly mirrored circuits. On one side, we have real flows. This is the physical stuff, the flow of your labor services to an employer, or the flow of physical commodities and goods to buyers. On the exact opposite side, moving in the reverse direction, we have money flows. This is the financial exchange, the money incomes like wages, rent, and interest that actually pay for those physical goods and services. Picture a super simple two-sector model, just households and firms. Households own the factors of production, like land and labor. In the physical loop, households provide this labor to firms. The firms use that labor to produce goods, which flow right back to the households. But check out the inner financial loop. In return for that labor, firms pay wages to the households. The households then take that exact same money and spend it to buy the firm's goods. Assuming households spend all their income and firms distribute all their revenue, it creates this continuous, perfectly balanced loop where total production equals total consumption. Pretty neat, right? Let's scale it up. Section 4. Expanding the circular flow. As we all know, the real world is a whole lot messier than just households and firms perfectly trading back and forth. So let's progressively add some layers to build a much more complex reality. Step 1, we add the capital market, so banks and insurance companies. This introduces savings and investments. Step 2, we add the government, bringing in taxes and public spending. And finally, Step 3, we tear down the borders entirely and add the rest of the world, which introduces international trade. First, let's look at what happens when we introduce the capital market and the government sector to create a three-sector model. You see, households don't spend every single penny they make, they save a portion in banks. These savings act as a leakage or withdrawal from that main loop. But the banks take those savings and lend them to firms as investments, injecting that money right back in. Then the government steps in. They collect taxes from both households and firms, which is another major leakage, pulling money out of the flow. But they don't just sit on that cash. The government pumps it back into the economy as an injection through public spending, paying for things like administration, law and order, and subsidies to firms.
All right, Section 5, the open economy balance. Now we're ready for the grand finale. We're bolting on the final pieces to transition from a closed domestic loop to an open global economy. This is the true economic machine. It's like a massive plumbing system where you can actually see the interaction between our domestic economy and the rest of the world. When households buy imported goods from foreign countries, money leaves our domestic pipes. That's a drainage valve, pulling money out. But when our domestic firms sell goods to foreign countries, our exports, they receive foreign money in return. Those are supply jets injecting brand new money right back into our domestic engine. To keep this complex four-sector machine running at a steady equilibrium, we have to meticulously balance the leakages against the injections. On the withdrawal side of our ledger, we have savings, taxes, and imports. This is all the money temporarily or permanently exiting the main domestic flow. On the injection side, we have investment, government expenditure, and exports. This is the exogenous addition of money pumping back into the flow.
So, what does this all mean? Well, the crucial point is this final equation right here. Savings plus taxes plus imports equals investment plus government spending plus exports. This identity proves that economic equilibrium in an open economy is only reached when the total water leaving the pipes, those total withdrawals, perfectly matches the water being pumped back in through total injections. If the leakages are greater, the flow of national income contracts. If the injections are greater, the national income expands. It's that simple. I want you to really think about that as you interact with the economy today. If you buy a brand new imported car tomorrow, are you injecting money into the domestic flow or are you creating a leakage? Every single time you deposit a paycheck into a savings account, pay your taxes, or buy something online from another country, you are physically turning the valves of this massive machine. You are literally directing the flow of the global economy. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning how the world around you actually breathes.